clean?
How's it loose in the shoe?
Well, it's there.
Yeah, it's there, we haven't set it up.
Pretty good,
Yeah.
Really?
We're gonna knock out all the concrete in that front building, get it smooth, and then we'll set it back or set it up. Cause it's all modular, so it just came in crates.
Really? You gonna put it together?
Well,
Well, they would put it together, but
yeah, they wanna charge me like 15 grand to put it together, and I was like, it's just panels.
So instead we can still do it.
I got guys there.
Very cheap, very frugal with his money.
Yeah.
We all are.
Well, originally they wanted 15 grand. Paying $15,000 to ship that up here. I'm like, I'll take 3 truckloads back and forth to grab it if that's the case. And so by the time it was all said and done, we found a shipping company. It was like $5,400 or $5,200 to ship it up here. Like, how the price go?
Unbelievable.
Almost quarter the price.
And the
That's
guy,
unbelievable.
Yeah,
the guy that,
Well, because the people are by the boat for school.
absolutely.
And most people would just do it
Yep.
and not check around and check it out.
Yeah.
well,
To me,
you
that
have
was
to
a
be
huge.
Chris,
Well, I'm sure they weren't happy with it.
Oh, I'm sure they weren't because they were gonna do the same.
well, they
damn
already
thing.
had the money on the phone and they told us. We want it. So we told them, money, which is good. Get the shipping on it. Yeah,
The engine's
probably.
okay to fire and it mainly is.
So we got a guy,
unfriendly.
through Superior Crane.
Well, so there's a whole thing out there, and I guess I knew it was out there, but didn't really know it.
But all your leaves.
But you can
We
go
have a good
like
public education.
into a website,
Some people do listen.
tell them the square footage, the weight, and then like 6 people or however many people they want can bid on that job. So that's what
And
happened.
the one guy that came up with brand new
Yeah,
semi.
brand new.
Brand new. Soft side with the sides that slide down, so you don't have to worry about it getting back.
Wow, thanks.
I think
It
he
was the most interesting, little black dude, long ass freaking hair, cowboy boots.
Alert thing.
And when you hop in the truck, I'm like, well, that's interesting. Brand new Peter Dorsch. They had the second question, I'm like, is that, you said that's a brand new truck? He's like, yeah.
Okay, let's call this thing to
Is there
order.
one? No.
And we'll do roll call first. Commissioner Horschel. Present. Commissioner Kennedy. Here. Attorney Schoenberg. Okay, and then we have our engineer, Roush.
Yep.
And of course, another commissioner, Zombrowski.
Zimbrowski.
Present. Okay. And Commissioner Bennett.
Here.
And of course, our clerk, Kelly, and myself, Jeff Goodman. So everybody's here. Okay, there is.
Fire Marshal Bronk.
Oh, yeah. You slipped in on me. Thank you for
We
coming.
slipped in on you.
Yeah.
Guys, what can I do to educate you people?
You come more often?
I know, I missed the last one, I know.
Oh, okay.
You're lucky I'm here today for this one.
No, we need your input, Bill.
I know that, I understand that.
Very
I
good.
realize that.
Yeah.
But
Thank you.
I went for a ride and I slipped on my you-know-what, and then I hurt him a little bit. Other than that, but
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry to hear that.
That's all life goes, just
It,
keep right on going.
You know, we gotta get the grippers so we don't do that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay, consideration approval of minutes from December 15th.
I'll make a motion to waive the reading of the minutes.
A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Here.
Good job.
Yeah.
And what page is this? This is B, there's something about a hard piece of equipment should be large. I think it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here.
Oh, there you go.
How far down there?
Under B, like the
Under B,
fifth line or
yeah,
sixth line. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Under number 4, public comments, it'll be on page 2, second paragraph. Second line of that says, there was not to be any gas run to the building, but now the guy has gas, there's P-U-T in there, put, I don't know if that'd be, has gas run, has gas
Okay.
in. Make a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to public comments. Please, state your name, address, and all that, and keep it within a couple of minutes, and also keep it to the agenda items, please. Public comments?
I have one.
Okay.
Greg Peterson, South 91, West 22887, Orchard Street, Big Bend. After all that has happened and transpired between everyone, I'm hoping that we can put the past in the past, check our egos at the door, get rid of feelings, personal feelings, and try to make this village a better place. That's all I got.
Thanks, Greg. Anybody else, public comments? Any other public comments? Okay, we'll move forward. We have old business, is none. New business, review, discuss possible action on the site plan of operation requested of applicant Monica Miller. And I'm not gonna read the whole thing. Do you wanna take that on?
Sure. This is for the site over at 8805 Clark Street. Monica Miller doing business as with with a total of 3 gals running separate small entity businesses within this salon. Would like to occupy about 950 square feet of the multi-tenant building that Mr. Shepke has there. And I believe Monica is his daughter, so just as an FYI. The description of the use is really just that it would be lashes, nail service, and massage. And those things are listed as a permitted use in the B2 zoning district where the property is located. This is a location within the building that was previously occupied by Lavish and Lace Photography, I believe it was, who has, I'm not certain if they've gone out of business, but they are not operating there anymore. So the site plan review that I did when I took a drive around, took a few pictures, reveals a bit of jet ski parking up in the upper lot, and I think we all know that that has been full of jet skis from time to time in the past. And that was not a part of Fox River Recreation's original plan approval. They were to park in the back and a few stalls up the side of the driveway. So there's a dynamic there that I'll look for the commission to provide some feedback on in terms of whether you want that handled any differently going forward, since that is a violation of the existing site plan approval. But based on the picture you see that I took most recently during my site review, there is adequate parking space available up there to accommodate the anticipated demands for this particular use, with just 3 owners, each of them visiting with 1 client at a time, and not always overlapping them. So in the upper lot, they would have space to do that. Cars on Clark is still a business entity in and of itself, but they are not presently active at the site at this time. So their spaces would also be available. The 6 spaces that had been allocated to them previously would also be available. So I don't have any concerns with respect to the business fitting into the space, complying with the zoning district, having sufficient parking to designate for this use. I'd look for the commission's feedback with respect to the parking of the jet skis, and like we do every time we look at a business site plan, we look at the site in its entirety. We try to take steps to bring the entire site, the buildings, into compliance with the codes. I had recommended that there would be some conditions attached if the commission is looking favorably at this request. Site review by the building inspector and fire safety personnel as to compliance with all the applicable codes, and site-specific approvals on the premises, and all the buildings located thereon. Applicant or property owner must take corrective action with any non-compliant items noted prior to issuance of building or occupancy permit for the proposed new use. Okay? Secondly, that is what I had just described to you, that the planning commission provide feedback to staff. How, if at all, you want us to handle the parking of jet skis in the upper lot going forward? Or do you want to just let it continue to roll as is? Number 3, that the applicant secure occupancy and sign permits that may be necessary. The plan with respect to signage is just to occupy space on the existing sign. So I don't know that a permit is actually going to be necessary, but you'll check with the building inspector on that. Property owner and applicant have to determine the number of handicap parking stalls that are required under the state statutes to accommodate the mix of uses that are now in the building, if this is approved, and make sure that those are properly marked in the parking lot. Okay? And lastly, if a new refuse container would become necessary on the site to support your use, or maybe Milwaukee Motorsports, before you would put that out at the site, you'd have to submit a dumpster enclosure plan for review and approval prior to the installation. So that's all I have from the planning standpoint. I'll turn it over.
Any questions?
Regarding the parking of the sport utility or jet skis,
Yeah.
Those spaces are considered for the business use for customer parking?
All those upper spaces were allocated to Cars on Clark, and the other occupant that was, I think it may have been an insurance company, and then it became Lavish and Lace, and then Milwaukee Motorsports became active over there. And so it's the combination of those uses that are supposed to share the spaces in the upper lot.
So, for a business of this type, is there any special licensing that has to occur that we would have to consider for approval tonight?
The building and the fire inspector will drill down on that when it comes down to the details about, sometimes salons have special HVAC requirements because of some of the toxic things that they use. Now, I did see in the application plans that this particular applicant was looking at natural products that may not precipitate that kind of requirement, but the building and fire inspectors will drill down on that and ensure that all the right provisions are made.
Thank you.
If we would have someone talk to the business owner about the parking of the jet skis, who would go out there to talk to them about that? Would that be the village's inspector, or?
It would really be the village talking to the property owner who's here tonight.
Sure. I guess I'm just trying to figure out, is there a way for us, how do we resolve this tonight, or do we just have to have, you're the business owner, so you're aware of the parking issue? What say you?
What's my take on it?
Yeah,
I think it's excessive. You know, it's a tenant, and I've talked to him numerous times. I've shared this with Mary. You know, parking spaces are for vehicles, and sometimes he has a difficult time putting that together as, okay, your jet skis are not a vehicle, they're not a car. He's used the upper parking lot as a transition where he'll fix the jet skis, and the owner will come to pick them up above. He said to my son, who lives in the apartment at the facility, that he realizes he's got to do something different with the new business coming in, because the photographer, there was typically her and one of her clients, so that she didn't need much for parking, and she was very she lived with what was happening. But that's not an excuse, because it's not what is part of the plan for that use. I guess what I would like to see, if this is possible, or if we don't have to go through a whole big re-plan or whatever, the number of if you can limit the number of jet skis up there, because I think it would be fair, like any other resident or business, if they want to sell something, they put it out there, there's a lot of traffic that goes by. If he could limit the use to a specific number that you come up with of jet skis that are for sale only, and that's the only way he would use that space up there, is for something that's for sale. And I think that's reasonable, but you know, I agree, I mean, having 10, 12 trailers up there is not acceptable, and is way beyond his use.
The right way to handle that, and this is up to the commission, but the right way to handle that would be to have Fox River Rec come back in and ask for a site plan amendment, and propose some specific stalls in particular.
Okay.
Which stalls and how many is what he should be asking for then. Process-wise, that's how it should be done.
Okay.
So it's up to the commission to decide, you know, whether that's.
Are there any of those parking spots assigned to him up top?
There were on previous, when we went for the use approval.
Like how many,
But
do you know?
I don't know, but that, again, that was supposed to be for vehicles and not storage of, or transition or whatever of jet skis.
Does most of the business traffic come in through the rear of the building, or up front there, or?
Mostly through the rear, yeah. That's where he's doing.
Is he running out of space back there to park, or?
He just has a lot of business. I mean, and it's not for me to say how he runs his business, but
Right,
my boat guy has X number of spots. When can you get my boat in? You can bring it in 2 weeks from Wednesday, because he knows that's his, and the current renter doesn't do it. Just bring it in, and so he might have to do a better job of that if we restrict him,
He has a number of trailers that have been sitting up there for quite some time. There was a lot more even,
Yeah, he gets real busy in
Yeah,
spring and
right.
fall for winterization and tune-ups.
So you work through the winter?
Yes.
We were down there fire inspecting and so forth, we were able to get our, well, it's only a pickup truck, but we were able to get down there. Excuse me, do the inspection and also be able to turn around down below and then drive up.
Is there any room down below for storage of those trailers that are up top right now?
It's pretty full down there, yeah.
Any spaces that are part of the plan of use for customer parking though should not be storage. Because I would consider this, if it's that customer's jet skis, that's external storage or outdoor storage.
He has 2 facilities that he's storing vehicles, like winter storage. So I don't believe that there's storage, I believe they're in transition. And I think what happens like right now, even during the summer, is they don't need them. It's convenient to be over here. He's not charging them to, whereas if he, hey, it's gonna cost you $5 a day after 3 days or something, but again, I'm not here to tell him how to run his business, and it's more work to do that and all of that, but I'm pretty confident that he's not storing customers' jet skis there.
Storage, though, I think in the sense that Commissioner Kennedy is talking about is really, if they're gonna be there for a week or 2 weeks or a month, some of them last summer stayed put all summer,
Yeah.
for sure. So that's storage, just because it doesn't have to be, out of season, long-term storage.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Should that particular issue be separated apart from the application that's before us tonight, or is that
Well,
enough of an impact to consider?
the application being before you tonight is what opens the door for you to make a condition of approval that the property owner direct the tenant to now mind their terms of approval, starting with this new occupancy. And if they don't, your guidance to staff is what? To go ahead and do zoning enforcement if he doesn't come in of his own volition with a new site plan.
Thank you.
A question, that new site plan, is that the whole application and all of that, or?
Same thing.
Okay,
Yep, same process, but in his case, he's already got an approval, and he'd be asking to modify it.
Okay.
Or he could just decide to live within the terms of his existing approval and find some other way to park and store. I think the storefronts there would be more successful if you don't have the jet skis,
Right.
kind of obliterating the front of the building.
Just so you guys know, I'm agreeable, I'm not happy at times either. And so I'm willing to work with you as a board to clean this up. So if that's affecting what we do with conditional occupancy or final occupancy or whatever for the salon, but I'm willing to work with you however I can.
I think I agree with you, Mary, that when I drive by, I thought it was just a place for jet ski repair and stuff like that. I wouldn't even know your salon was gonna be there unless you put up a huge flashing sign, otherwise I thought it was a jet ski place. So I think it will hinder your business. That's my opinion, I don't know if it will or not.
Good point.
I think we should stick with conditional use. If he wants to amend it, he can come and do so.
He doesn't have a conditional use, he has a site plan
Site plan.
of approval.
So we'll ask that you go to your tenant and explain that, please. So I guess we need to move forward and approve this or not, correct?
Just for this issue, yeah. This is one of those situations where I'm listening to the talk and I see an item on the agenda that deals with a specific site. I understand the conversation went to an adjoining site.
Same
No.
site,
Same site?
multi-tenant site.
Oh, well, a different, user?
Yeah.
Okay, but is that user aware that we're talking about their property or the use of the property?
He's not, we're talking to the owner.
Oh, okay.
We're talking to the owner because this application says, can I move this business now into the building? And my response to the commission is, one of the conditions of your approval should be that the
Well,
property owner gets back to this tenant.
I guess the discussion's done. And, but I just would be a little concerned that when you're talking about someone else, and their use of a piece of property, albeit a tenant, I'm not so sure that they should know what they're gonna be talked about. So the discussion's done at this point, I think, and everybody knows which way they're going, but, just cautious, and when the ice gets thin, I start to worry. So, go ahead.
I make a motion to approve based on the planner's recommendation that they follow those recommendations 1 through 5. Including that would have the owner check in with the current tenant and see if we can get their site plan up to speed and report back to the next meeting. Does that sound correct?
Yeah.
That we would approve the nail salon, you know, it shouldn't hold it up, but we definitely would need the owner of the property to check in on the other portion of their site plan and make sure they bring it into,
Remind them to get into compliance.
get compliance, there's your,
And you can tell them that
correct.
if they feel like they do need some upper lot space, they have to come in for a site plan.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and second from me, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to review and discussion possible action on site plan operation request of Guy Lilly and his group. Thank you. What we have on that one, Nick?
I don't know if Elevated Trucking is here?
They're not here.
No, okay. So Elevated Trucking is a trucking company that would like to take over tenant occupancy in the westernmost building on the property at 8515 Industrial Avenue. And on the image that's in your packet, you can see I've put a little bit of a dotted line next to the east side of the building to show basically where their privilege to use the site would be limited to. So with respect to the Elevated Trucking use itself, they would really use the interior of the building for parking of vehicles and equipment and shop purposes. Maybe store some, some various supplies and what have you. They would also like to be able to park and store vehicles and equipment outdoors on the site. In the front, you can see that there are 2 paved parking spaces kind of right in front of the overhead doors, front directly on Bucket Street. But they would also like to be able to store in the area along the west side of the building, between the building and the berm. And on the pictures, you can see in the past, there have been vehicles and equipment back there. It's a dead-end street, and it does rise right up to the berm from there, so it's not visible to anybody. But sometimes these things raise fire concerns, what have you, so I want the commission to be aware that that's what's being asked for. I did my site visit the other day, and I actually ran into the property owners who are here. And this raises the same situation that we just talked about in the previous application. So from a planning standpoint, I see that the trucking company shop and parking, associated parking on the site, is a use that's permitted in the I-1 zoning district. We do have a provision in the ordinance about exterior site usage, and I put that in my staff report for you. And basically it says storage areas allowed in the rear yard only unless the planning commission approves it elsewhere. Storage areas have to be screened from the public view. Storage areas have to be enclosed by fencing. can't exceed 20% of the lot, and the items stored have to be accessory to the business use on the property. So, with that, I don't have any objections to the elevated trucking site plan of operations request as submitted. But I went on to raise in my report by providing you some pictures and conditions of recommended conditions of approval. I pointed out that the pole hammers who are here tonight and are the owners of the property, they occupy the east building on this site. And the pictures that I've presented show that there's a great deal of outdoor storage associated with their use. And that storage sits right in the front yard setback from Bucket Street, sits out in the plain view from either Bucket Street or Industrial Avenue. It's a good thing because it's product that's going into their business, being handled and treated, coated, painted, and then being set outdoors in preparation to be shipped off-site back to the clients. So that's a good thing. They're busy and they're constantly moving through this material. But this is their storage area out in the front. Again, because it's the same property that the elevated trucking request comes in on, it opens that door for us to look at the site in its entirety and say, is everything according to Hoyle on this property? Before we introduce a new user, a new occupancy. So among the conditions of approval that I recommended, get there, were as follows. Applicant to comply fully with all the representations of their application and everything discussed at the meeting tonight. Applicant to submit a sign permit and secure the permit if you're going to put any signage at the site in the future. Outside storage or parking of any materials, equipment, and supplies is expressly prohibited without the prior consent and approval of the Planning Commission. So your approval has to come tonight for that outside storage. I explained to you that parking and storage that elevated trucking wants to do on their part of the site. I said outside parking of day trip vehicles and vehicles that are owned by the tenant occupant, operable and routinely used in business operations, may be permitted to be parked outdoors on the site. So that's a distinction. Materials, equipment, and supplies are one thing. Their vehicles, as long as they're operable and being used in the business, are fine. They can be parked outdoors. Number 5, village staff resolution of the assigned address for this property. Apparently, there is an address for this building.
There is an address for it.
Okay, but it's not populating on the Waukesha
It's not one
County
that is
GIS
used
site.
very commonly up back there.
Okay,
In
So-
20 years of us being there, we've never used it as a secondary property that way.
okay.
So we
But you
haven't-
do want this tenant to have the right to use that address? Is
Well,
that
sure,
the
yeah.
plan?
I mean,
Okay.
it's technically another space for them. You know, I don't need them using the other address. People will get lost.
Right, so that's good. What I'd like to do is just confirm where that address came from and give it to the county so they can put it into the Waukesha County GIS system.
Mhm.
And also make sure from the fire safety perspective that we get a sign put out so people can identify what that location is.
Sure.
So, and then the other condition was that any new or existing outdoor trash receptacle, dumpster, storage area, if they decide they do need one on the site, would be subject to prior review and approval before it's built and installed at the site. So the question about the outside storage, the applicants have been in this location for a long time. They own the buildings, not only on this south side of the street, but also on the north side of Bucket Street. So they essentially own all of the frontage all the way along this leg of Bucket Street, this little cul-de-sac to nowhere. And it's to nowhere for sure because to the west is the berm and then the street, Lake Park Drive, and then the homes that back up to the quarry, the old quarry lake. So the applicant, when I ran into them doing my site review, said, why aren't we just vacating this public right-of-way and giving it back to me? Cut it down the center line, give half to my north property, give half to my south property. Let me build a fence along Industrial Avenue, and you won't all have to look at all this stuff out here. they certainly can petition the village for vacation in that right of way. It would go to Public Works, it would go to the Planning Commission for review and comment and input before anybody would make a recommendation to the village board. I don't know if that's a step that anyone has any background on. Has it been discussed? Has it ever been broached?
You're talking about the bulb of the cul-de-sac?
I'm talking about the whole, because part of the bulb of our cul-de-sac actually is on their private property. It's not in the right of way.
So would there be any extension from the main road out? Or would it stop at the main road? 'Cause
It would stop at industrial.
Oh, okay.
So what we would do is give you guys full right of way to it if you ever needed to get in there. So with a gate there, obviously we would have it locked. So the town would have a key to be able to come in if they ever had to get to the back of it for fires or if something happened to the ditch line that they cut out in there in the last couple of years. So it would be that too.
We'd set the fence back a ways.
Yeah, the
Where the
fence
driveway is.
would come between the two buildings, you know, to obviously make it where you guys can't see what is in the back of it. It's kind of the easiest way we've come up with to try to take care of it. You guys will get your tax money out of it that way, you know, for the property, and then we take care of it with
It is a
plowing and
really
all that.
unusual situation.
I mean, I feel like
That
that
we
little
have-
area has been like such a problem in the last couple of years with either when Danny was over there or we were over there, somebody parking something in the wrong area. I feel like this would be the simplest way to rectify the situation.
Is that piece of property owned by you folks or by us?
The road is owned by you guys.
Yeah.
What's it? I think I know where you mean, and I know it's been a real issue with the DPW and Tony, maybe you can help me with this, where they've complained a lot about plowing and stuff being on the,
So,
It's not, not that particular one?
yeah, that's
that
the
others have.
east side of the street.
okay,
Yeah,
So
so
it's cheap from Old
this
Horn
is-
Brothers Building,
okay.
this is the Bucket Street
East Bucket.
Yeah.
cross here.
Okay.
This is the side where, now, if you look at this, our right-of-way is just this straight stem. The paved bulb of the cul-de-sac sits on their private property. All of this is on their private property. All of this is on this guy's private property. Okay, so I don't know if the village has been mindful of that. When we asked them to clear all their stuff out of here, they've apparently cooperated, but the truth is, that's their real estate. Now, you know, we don't know all the history, and we would want to find it out. But right here is where the Polehammers own this property and this property. And this is where all that outside storage is for them. And they would rather just gate this off and not have everybody looking at it.
Bill, was that cul-de-sac put in for turnaround for?
For fire department, yes.
And
If
how-
we would have a fire on the far north end, we could put a tank there, relay the water down, and then the tankers could come in and dump, then go and turn around out. Now, when we do have a fire in there, you know what happens, we go through, down the back, Artesian, and through Lake Park and then out that way.
Uh-huh.
But at the time that this was built, when I was in there, it was just the cul-de-sac, or the bucket going east. And Horn Brothers was the building there, okay? And then when I built that building on the corner, then bucket going west was put in. But it was all put in for that purpose, for fire, for a tanker to turn around, because we did not have any hydrants or any other use of water in here.
So what's your thoughts on that?
Just my thoughts on it. In regards to,
Was in regards to fire and safety and all that kind of stuff.
well, it should be okay the way it is right now, and if they wanna do whatever they're doing, give us, you know, the right, or the key to get in there and so forth and everything else, it should not be a problem at all. Because we don't really need those, yeah, we do, you could use them. But mainly we run it through, doesn't go around. And if we can, we try to get water out of Lake Park, but that hydrant has been not in good shape.
I think you go down to, by the, by
We go by the
the
Moose
ski-
Lodge, right?
Moose Lodge, yeah.
And when we had that fire there, I put, with,
Kroll,
cross scrap, I mean, we used 2 hydrants there. We used, we used the hydrants as they went down, and the more control we had of the fire, then we were going to get down to one hydrant. But if we need water, we like, there's all the different places to get water. But if you kind of listen to the news lately, you know, in these suburban areas where the house is totally completely destroyed, and the main factor said, well, lack of water. Well, it's, I disagree with that, because we, as a fire departments and throughout the Waukesha County and suburban, surrounding counties, we do have a system of handling water, and we're pretty quick with it. And, you know, the products that you make, that you use for your buildings today, especially in housing, is very flammable. It has to get hot, but once it gets hot, look out, it's gone. But, you know, if you're talking about the industrial park, I think that would be a great thing to see that done there.
So I think the question is, that is not on the agenda for tonight.
okay.
But if there's a sense out of the commission that that may be a plausible solution, the issue is that there is all this outside storage going on this property. And the code says not allowed, especially not in the setback of a public street, right? The area, the entire area between the building and the street is full of materials, equipment, supplies. So either you resolve to live with them, or you enforce on them that this be removed. And by resolve to live with it, I mean, I'd like to hear the village attorney's opinion about, do you just carry on and turn a blind eye? I don't know if you can. But, or would you like, you know, the staff to informally, you know, circulate a question throughout the staff group, looking for feedback about whether there are issues and objections that we should be aware of that would be problematic for the village if we were to vacate that portion of Bucket Street? Should we solicit a petition from should the applicants make a petition first to start the ball rolling? I'd like.
I don't know if it's a legal question so much as just a practical issue. And I suppose the latter, so it's some sort of petition, start the ball rolling would make some sense.
Just a letter of request.
Okay. Can do that.
You own both
Right.
sides of the street?
Yeah.
There may be reasons. I don't know all the ins and outs. What about the drainage back there? Access to the drainage way behind those, between the berm and the buildings, utilities, all that stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, we would have to take some time and look into that.
And that's why we said we'd give you guys full access to be able to get through there
An easement.
at any time, you know. But for you guys, you know, you guys don't like the stuff that we have out there. I feel like that'd be the easiest way to keep it out of everyone's eye, you know.
It's not a bad idea.
And then
Yeah.
you guys would plow it?
Yep, we would plow it, salt it. And it's kind of, even like Metro, we kind of do the same stuff. And if you drive past there, you can see a lot of stuff behind the, you know, they do the same kind of stuff. So we're storing the same kind of materials. With their fence line, it's harder to see what they have back there
Right.
that way,
It is.
you know, so.
And that's why the fence, yeah.
Right,
makes a big
and that's
difference.
kind of why we were just coming up with this as a solution to fix this.
So taking the, kind of putting to the side the potential vacating of the street, just looking at what we have before us tonight, basically. I really have two planes of thought, and it's kind of differentiating, but still the same. So, first of all, if you look in industrial, the entire industrial park, almost every business has some sort of outside storage. And every time that there's been a change of occupancy, we have tried to address this so that we limit the amount of outside storage, so it's protected from public view by fence line or by screening bushes or whatever else. I also put into that conversation my thoughts, the most recent development we've had in the village, the business condominiums, and we have restricted outside storage inside of those business condominiums. Really, if we don't enforce the outside storage, we're going to put other properties at a disadvantage over what we're allowing one business to do, but not the next. That is a quandary, of course, that we need to discuss more, but even though that the entire industrial park has some sort of outside storage, for the most part, I think in order to make things correct, we have to strongly consider to not just look the other way and to make sure that we're following at least some type of semblance between all businesses.
Yeah.
And again, it's if somebody wants outside storage, there's going to be some disadvantages to other businesses that have to follow that to a strict T.
I mean, we've always tried to keep up on the front of that property though, so when you drive past it, there's not broke down cars, there's not our railings out there that we do. And that's the disadvantage with them corner lots like that. For us, apparently, we still are trying to use our property. When you go to all the other lots that are through there, and they are using outdoor storage, you drive around their building. Well, we don't have that advantage there. So, so there's that to.
You don't have a backyard.
Right. Well, everyone else, you can go behind any other properties in there. I don't care which one it is. And we all have stuff behind the buildings.
And that's the other side of that argument that I was just going to say is the fact you don't have a backyard area to put things that you can fence in.
Right.
Even the side yard to like the west that they're petitioning to use that would be between that building and the fence line to the berm. I don't think that's paved. I don't think there's any improvements to that, but it's been used and so does everybody else through there for the same thing. Everybody's got stuff out onto the grass and the dirt and long-term storage, so, I throw that out. It's two separate but intertwined looks at it, and it's something that we have to set precedent for moving forward, how we're going to address it.
There's no list of items that they plan on storing.
The condition says that there's outside storage or parking of any materials, equipment, or supplies is expressly prohibited without the prior consent. So what would be outdoors for elevated trucking would be only licensed, registered, operable vehicles, either day tripping, meaning employees or visitors or whatever, either day tripping or those vehicles have to be part of the routine operations of the business they're occupying.
If I recall, property on the east side of Industrial Avenue, they had some rear storage that we had on their conditional use or their site plan approval. They told us exactly what was going to be stored, and that's all we approved to be stored outside. And in this case, not knowing what's going to be out there, I don't think we should approve any kind of storage outside.
I'm gonna say one thing though. 22 years ago when I sat in this room here, and Bill can testify for it, you guys made us an example setter to pave our lot. We did it, we got it done, and the time you asked to have it done, and the meeting is everybody that moves in there, we were gonna be the example setter. Bill sat in that corner. We paved our lot, XL paved theirs, they paved theirs. There's a lot of other lots in there that have never been paved. So, you want to talk about example setters? They should have to pave them as the tenants moved in, because that's what Big Ben said had to be done. And then there was a problem with the water. There was a water issue, which we understand. That's why they stopped the paving. We fixed the streets. We spent $1 million on them. Why aren't we paving the rest of the lots when people move in?
There's a fairly recent amendment that was made to the code that allowed for planning commission approval with the recommendation of the village engineer. The planning commission can approve a wrap asphalt or other reliable dust-free surface.
That's still not
The
pavement like
alternative.
you forced me to do.
I know, but that's,
And we were
what I'm
first in
saying is,
business and it
this is an
cost us
amendment to
60
the
grand
code
at least.
since you were
Yeah. well,
first brought through. And so, the codes that are
But-
in place now are the only codes that we have to apply each time a project comes through.
So the back lot where Elevated Trucking's moving's got a different address. So it would apply to that. We've been there for 22 years in that front lot.
And what are you saying that?
No? All they want is no outdoor storage.
I understand, but how are we gonna do no outdoor storage? Be pretty tough.
Three,
Well, I'll chime in with one thing. The storage issue is a plan commission issue. I don't think it's so much a legal issue. But the matter of vacating a street is covered by state statutes. And although the word petition's been used here, if you want to seek your own attorney, it's the owner's, the adjoining owner's responsibility. But you could seek a vacation of the road. That's
Right.
just a separate process for that. So just you're aware of that.
If you would take the road, let me give them the road, then they would have their backyard, wouldn't they? In plain English, common sense, you give them the road, and they're their backyard. And we put the gate across the front and close everything nicely, out of sight, out of mind, everybody will be happy.
That's what they're saying they'd like to do. And so that's something I'm guessing you'll probably follow up on.
yeah, if you're gonna make us have no storage outdoor, yeah, then we will have to.
Okay, but then the question will eventually come, if the roadway isn't vacated, what do you want to do about all that outside storage? Do we enforce on it and where do you go?
If the road is vacated, if we would still enforce the,
No, if the road doesn't get vacated.
oh, if it doesn't.
I mean, that's pretty hard for us to run part of our business out of that without being able to store materials. I mean, we got 2 to 3 semi-loads that come and go a day. Like when you were there, or whatever, I'm sure your pictures have a lot of stuff in that corner lot, that's gone. So I mean, that's how much stuff comes and goes out of there. It's just kind of part of our business that way. And we've been kind of running like that for quite some time.
Well, that wouldn't be considered storage, that'd be considered under shipping and receiving, right?
Well, they're telling us that this is just sitting there out in the open as storage. I mean, that stuff was delivered a week ago, and it's being prepared to be delivered next Monday and Tuesday.
One semi-load left today.
So, you know, then I got my 2 other flatbeds that are out there that are loaded with other jobs that are coming and going. It's not like these are just abandoned trailers and stuff.
I think we're talking about the one that's for the new operation, right?
Well, does this go throughout the whole thing? Because the way I understand it, if you're giving them no outdoor storage for that property, that means there's no outdoor storage for that property.
Well, if they have separate addresses, would that?
But they don't have any yard. They don't have any yard. The only place they could store.
Is in front of the 2 doors off to the
To the west.
west of that building, which they have maybe 25 feet from the building to that fence line.
And what would they store out there?
They're gonna have, I think they have maybe 2 or 4 semis, dump trucks that go out, come and go every day for the most part during summer months. Beyond that, I don't believe you guys have anything else you guys are planning on really storing out there. Maybe they're plow trucks that they use in the wintertime, like now we got snow, right? So they're coming and going with a couple of their plow trucks that they have. But beyond that, it's not the dumpster thing. I don't think that's an issue. They use our dumpster, so they're not gonna be asking for outdoor storage on a dumpster. If they put a little sign up, obviously they're gonna have to come in and show that to you guys what they want for it. But beyond that, they're not looking to really store anything there.
And that's the way the conditions of approval are written, is to allow the trucks to be parked out there.
Right.
The vehicles that are operable, licensed, and used in the pursuit of the business that's occupying the site, but not equipment, materials, pallets, a
Right.
salt pile, or a bin. There's no room for that on your.
No, they don't have room for that over there. They have roughly 30 feet off the east side of that building. So I mean, it's not as if they have they have that one area there. But if you're taking it and saying that whole site can't have outdoor storage on it, that's kind of a problem on our side of it.
Well, it's one site, and I recognize that somebody gave an address to this other building, but it's one parcel,
Okay,
okay? And you guys just happen to own all buildings on there, so it's the parcel we're talking about.
Okay.
When we talk
If-
about,
if-
is the parcel in its entirety in compliance at this time? And if it's not, the planning commission can make it a condition of approving this new occupancy,
mhm.
that the entire site.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that, cause these guys are pretty clean anyhow with what they have over there. I don't think they want all, they probably don't like our stuff that's sitting out there, so. Just saying.
You guys are really in a squeeze, aren't you?
Well,
But-
why don't we address their needs, and then you come back with your request,
Sure.
and then we can look at that, if that's acceptable.
I was gonna say, could we tentatively make the approval, and then if the elevated trucking comes back and says, hey, I really need to, whatever, I need to put this skid steer trailer or something out there, then they come back to the planning commission and they petition us to say, hey, I know we're not supposed to have outdoor storage, but I wanna tuck something right in between those two doors or something, or what, you know what I mean? Like, they could come back and they could ask for permission, right?
Mhm.
But until that, we could approve their occupancy with the understanding that they're not supposed to store stuff, materials and stuff outside of it.
Yeah, so in the grass area, they can't store anyhow. There's,
Yeah.
there's septic fields and stuff in there.
Yeah, you're not gonna put a quad on that.
Right, so that's off limits either way we look at that.
Correct.
So I think we can move forward with this, and, you know, we can't correct anything that happened 20 years ago. I wasn't even here then, you know, I was alive, but not here. But we do have to enforce things going forward. So by this, we can maybe start the process and get this moving.
That'll work.
I'll make a motion to approve the site plan and plan of operations for elevated trucking.
Second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Subject to planning conditions?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
It has been fire inspected, so it's all taken care of in that way. You guys been approved on that.
Okay, we'll move on forward to Riverwalk East. Who wants to run with that?
Oh, okay, so this is item 6C, review, discussion, possible recommendation to the village board for a rejection of the letter of credit for Ripplebrook East subdivision development, and the applicant is developer Steve Stiza. In your packet is a memo relating to the letter of credit reduction at the Ripplebrook East subdivision. As you know, construction took place last summer, and village engineer Hein from ATI was doing the construction management and erosion control inspections on site. He took a look at the request for the letter of credit reduction and agreed with retaining a balance of $81,004.70, which includes the 120% requirement for the developer's agreement. So the attached spreadsheet gives the itemized percentages of percent retained, mostly for the final lift on the pavement for the roads at Ripplebrook East.
Is lighting included with the,
It's not included on this letter of credit estimate.
okay, is it included in another letter of credit, or is there nothing covering the lighting portion of it? I just noticed it wasn't in there.
Yeah, no, we spent a lot of time going back and forth on the letter of credit. It didn't get included.
Okay. Would that normally be included?
We had in the past, but then there was a statute change that Attorney Schober and the attorney for Mr. Stiza discussed on what could be included in the letter of credit. And this was the final version that was agreed upon between the two attorneys.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions, comments? Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the reduction in letter of credit for local fees.
For a second?
I can second that.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, now we'll move on to review, discussion, possible action, or guidance to village staff on how to proceed as verbal objection of Triple Brook East subdivision developer Steve Sizer regarding impact fee.
I think that's mine. We had listed in the letter that you have. And myself, I hope you had a chance to review it. Bottom line was that due to changes in the statutes, dedication fees, the requirements of dedication of land and fees in lieu of dedication are no longer correct. Mary asked me a couple times during the course of this development whether it's appropriate to include them. And I doubt it, and just the answer, we'll wait and see. Well, now we wait and see, we wait and saw. I did some research on the topic that really yields this conclusion. So dedication fees or fees of mid-dedication are no longer appropriate, but the impact fees are still appropriate. On the second page of that letter, I noted what I think to be the options. And one is to straighten out our code to eliminate provisions no longer consistent with state statutes. Update the additional section which deals with impact fees. Advise Mr. Stiza of the opinion that we've come to now, and then consider a potential update to those fees, the ones that we can charge, i.e. the impact fees. Well, that's what it says. I think whatever you're going to do is a recommendation to the board. We don't have the ability to, at this, well, to modify, make these changes, but it would be a recommendation to the board.
So, if I'm understanding it correctly, then the $2,000 that was being assessed would not be able to, but the impact fee of $370.45 per lot would still be?
Correct.
Would survive?
That's correct. We probably should have taken this action years ago, but there were no developments for a number of years, and to my knowledge, this is the first one that's really come online since the statutory changes. We've been more alert, we would have made these changes already, but it doesn't change the fact that the state statutes were modified. It depends on who's in control, Republicans or Democrats. That determines what the laws are going to be.
So is this for any house that's been developed, or just for creation of subdivisions, or?
So it's going to be those that are subject to subdivision standards.
Okay. So like Park, for instance, that would have been developed since the rule changes, were there fees assessed to those properties?
I don't know.
For what was it?
I don't know what the time was on that, Tony.
Yeah, those would have been assessed.
Okay.
Yeah, they would have been.
I'm just using that as an example.
I mean, they should have been. I don't know when that was developed, but.
Well, even west, we're
Yeah,
west.
imagine that.
We paid,
Yeah.
we probably paid.
Oh, yeah, you too.
I think it was 1,800, it wasn't too low.
Yeah.
We probably did too.
I have no
We
idea.
wouldn't-
I mean, the total fee was, it was 1,800 total, whatever that fee was. I just remember they said final occupancy and final inspection, we had to come and pay that fee to get our occupancy. So I just came and wrote the check.
I guess we need a motion to.
I don't know what those building fees are.
It wasn't,
Permit
it wasn't
fees
the
and that kind of
building
thing.
permit fee, it was, you know, it was trash, it was
Oh,
literally described to me as
The
like.
whole
trash.
list of.
Yeah, it was, da, 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 all of
Yep.
that, and yeah, we just came over, paid the
Gotcha.
fee, so we get our occupancy
Yep.
permit.
So the impact fee is not included in 14.1107 of our
Well, I
ordinance?
think that's a wait.
That's okay, because we don't, yeah, I don't have a weight in here.
So the recommendation from you is to potentially make a motion to the board to explore revealing this out of the village's
I think-
code,
I just see.
because it doesn't meet state statutes.
Correct. So I think that maybe the motion is actually to all four of my items on my second page. I'm sorry, it's on the back of the page.
Sure.
As to number 4, I don't know how often the studies should be made. I don't know if anybody, you've got experience with that, Mary, as to how often communities are doing those studies. But
I don't-
chances are expenses have increased since enactment of, since the 08 and 11 studies that were done by, I think both done by Rooker and Milkie. So I don't know if this could be done by you tonight, but I don't know if you.
Do we have the authority to, like, your first action to take to repeal that particular section of code? Do we have the ability to do that or no?
That would be a separate agenda.
You can recommend it to the board.
No,
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, that, it's a recommendation to the board.
Sure,
Yeah, that's
okay.
beyond our authority here.
Yeah.
Same with number 2. Number 3 is gonna take care of itself, I think. And number 4, though, I don't know if this group has enough information to determine whether those studies should be updated. Maybe if not.
When is the last date that they were updated?
08 and then 11.
08 and 11.
So 11 years old is the most recent.
Yeah, I would say, I have not been involved in updating any of those recently, but 11 years sounds like a long time.
Sometimes it's a long time. So,
Yeah.
in the I guess the question is really, would there be a cost? Rooker Milkie doesn't work for free. So it's the cost of doing it, and then there's the potential to have the benefit of increased fees once Rooker Milkie does their study. But it would seem to me that even if they don't increase that much, I think we should have something that's more current than 11 years old. I just don't know what the cost of the study would be. And I don't know, Mary, would you have somebody over there you could talk to?
Sure.
Okay, and maybe come back to the commission with an idea as to what the cost would be to update it.
So this is to update 14.1108 that we're discussing?
Yes.
Okay, to basically reassess impact fees that were last updated in 2008
And 11.
and 11.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, not exactly, I guess, on the agenda so much, but my opinion is we at least need to explore it, but if the cost outweighs the benefit of updating it, because I wouldn't see that if we're getting a fee of $370.45 per lot, and we raise that up to 400, and our study costs 10,000, we literally
Yeah.
have to get 400 houses in to pay for it. So it's not worth it. You know, at least we could ask for a cost estimate and see what it would be, and then go from there, but it would take a lot of, it would have to be cheap to get the study done, and we'd have to have a good benefit for me to be impressed enough to say, let's do it.
Well, the studies though, I mean, you're like yours and 08, it does include industrial buildings too. They pay a fee per square foot.
So, have we assessed those in the past? Like, for instance, the most recent one, Lake Park Business Condominiums, were they assessed?
don't know that. Don't know.
Interesting point. I don't know 14, I don't know the statute that we're looking at, that it's not in here to look at, so I have to research. Is this something that we have to address now for continuing with the impact fee of $370.45, or say that we need to explore this further, get more information and table it? I mean, this isn't something that has to be assessed now, does it?
No.
Doesn't have to, but that is the number that appears justified pursuant to the statutes and pursuant to our current studies. I don't think that's going to change,
Okay.
irrespective of whatever other answers may be
I don't know that they're asking us to make the decision, though. I think they're asking for us to make the recommendation to move this to the board for consideration. That they would put this on their docket to do some of the research and consider whether or not the village would either change or repeal that. I think that's what they're asking, not for us to change it.
Right.
They just want us to move it to
So we'd have to
a
start here, we'd have to start here to take a look at it, and
Correct.
then make that full recommendation to the board. Because I don't even have the statute in front of me.
Sure.
Nor is it on the docket tonight to actually consider that. I would rather us get a little bit more information.
I'm gonna bring it towards the board if you don't, because that's my right in your,
Okay.
I mean, if you guys don't kick it along, I will.
I think what you probably want to do is, I don't deal with the fee sections of the code routinely. Ripplebrook East was the first subdivision that actually processed for as long as I've been here. The first subdivision that came up, so the park and open space fees question came up for me. And I sent out some emails and I said, hey, here's what the park and open space fee section says. So are we gonna levy this against Ripplebrook East? And that's what brings us to right where we are right now. I think what could happen is that there should be, somebody needs to gather all the details about the village's current fees. We need to know everything that's on the books for fees. What projects they're levied against, when in the process are they levied, at the platting of the lot, at the issuance of the building permit, at the what? Get a clear and concise summary of what we have on the books right now, and then look back at what the basis for those is, and whether those bases are still up to date or accurate. And if they're not, are we going to pursue somebody investigating an update to those? That's my thought on how I compartmentalize that.
I would tend to agree with that. Item number 4, current state of the studies and their age, really needs to be some other questions. I think to have that information, the cost of doing it, plus it appears that there are unanswered questions that have to be further explored. I think, would you do that, Mary? Go through the code? And
Sure,
you know,
I'll work with Laura to figure out what all of the fees are that are being charged,
Right, and
and
building-
where that is.
Building permit fees too?
Yep, well,
Yeah.
it works, yeah.
Of course. I think that would be good to take a look at everything, because this is really the first time in maybe 20 years, 18 years, where the issue is coming up, and it probably would hurt to take a fresh look at all of it.
But it sounds like we've charged some of these fees to the developments that have happened, from Ripplebrook East being one development, Badger Meadows, Lake Park.
Lake Park, I think, it was in the developers agreement, if I read it there, I think.
I can't tell you, Tony, but I agree that we should take a look backwards.
Because it looks like maybe if that had been repealed in 2005, we may have charged fees that weren't supposed to be charged.
Yeah, I
Am I reading that correct?
Yeah, we don't know what's charged. I just don't know.
No, I
You
don't
mean
have
Lake
enough
Park
history here to
subdivision?
know. I don't know, I don't remember that we did, but you guys said that you paid fees, so.
Well, I'd have to go back and look, I'm assuming, but don't assume anything.
So So we have the right to recommend that this go to the board for further
Can I-
consideration?
It's the developer that pays the fee. He's referring to the developer not paying a fee in lieu of park dedication. That's what he's referring to.
Right, that would be for that $2,000,
Correct.
yeah, it's,
The home, you know,
so,
the homeowner, you wouldn't have billed the homeowner, you would have billed the developer.
right, but the developer would most likely include that in the fees back to the individual buyer, I would assume.
What's that?
I said that, but the developer would then charge that back to
It'll
the,
pass through.
It would just be the price of the lot.
Correct. Yeah, they're not gonna pay this, they're not paying it for you.
right.
If they are, it's very nice.
It's just absorbed in the price of the lot,
Correct.
whatever it might be.
Did you pay those fees at Ripple Brook East?
I believe at that time, if my memory serves me right, you were in the process of developing this. And I said I didn't want to pay them. But I did in good faith, I think like $750 I paid per lot. If my memory serves me correct.
What time frame was that?
When I did Ripple Brook, original Ripple Brook,
So like 12, 13?
whenever you guys, I don't, I
It
don't
was
recall.
Well,
I
it was
don't
before
recall.
that, because your original Ripple Brook precedes me,
Yeah.
and I came on in '08 or '09.
Because I remember paying $6,500.
No, there's no rush on this. Maybe we should just hold everything until we get the current state of affairs and then take a look at the whole picture.
Mr. Stiza, you said that you're going to force that to be taken to the board this coming meeting?
Yeah, because it states right here in your, under the fees, you know, one of the last lines, if I have any question or I feel aggrieved, I can, you know, petition the board. But I have to go through the clerk, you know, send it, you know. Basically, I have it here, if you're curious.
Well, I'm not gonna be able to put together the material I'm thinking of putting together for the next board meeting.
I mean, it's an appeal.
Yeah.
And, you know, any developer can appeal any impact fee that's imposed under this section. And Mr. Schulmer does agree that I don't have to pay the fee in lieu of dedication.
Right.
Right.
That park fee,
So if we would,
that $2,000 per lot fee.
So you're just going to appeal, not that the village's code is all wrong, you're going to appeal, yes.
That I don't have to pay the fee.
That you don't have to pay the fee.
Right.
Gotcha. So
Some dedication.
oh,
the dedication of
Yeah, yes. The dedication fee.
Well, if based upon what you know, it's your recommendation to the board that that no fee in lieu of dedication be imposed, that would be your recommendation. Board could put it on its agenda. The board could put it, I think, on its agenda without your input. They don't have to have this one on your, they don't need a recommendation on this one, but if you have a desire to make a recommendation, you can do that. But I think it's gonna show up on the board's agenda anyway. So,
so we would take a motion to basically not assess the dedication fee, but to kick it to the board to readdress the impact fee?
Well,
no, I think, is there any question about the impact fee?
no, there's,
No.
I have no objection on the impact fees.
No.
None.
Well, that we've already pretty much by state statute said we cannot assess the dedication fees, so.
Correct.
I know, but I got sent a bill, and I have to let them know why I'm not paying it.
So if you're going to.
That's why I know you're saying that we need to gather more data.
For the impact fee portion of it, but that was kind of a discussion outside of this, the dedication fee.
It seems like it's already been settled. The
Right.
lawyer says we can't charge it, so.
Right, yeah, so we just basically take a motion to say that we're not gonna charge the dedication fee, but that would also have to be passed through to the board. I'm a little confused, I'm sorry, Mr. Schulmer, I'm just trying to
No,
figure out how to address
You
this.
can't charge a dedication fee.
Right,
Okay, so if you agree with that, then you would make a motion to recommend to the board that the dedication fee not be charged.
okay, all right,
And as to the impact fees, I think we need some more information.
okay.
That Mary's gonna gather and then take a look at all of these fees, potentially update things beyond even what's at issue here. And included in that group would be the impact fees and there would be an additional study, more current study.
But the impact fee that we've already addressed to Ripplebrook East would have to suffice under the old statutes.
That's correct.
So that would be a separate issue to, not necessarily say to reassess his impact fees, but impact fees moving forward with the study from Worker Moki or whatever else we would
Right,
need to
right.
do.
For Mr. Stizer, the impact fees are fixed
Yes,
in accordance with the current code,
okay,
but we reevaluate that based on additional information.
so it'd actually be two separate motions.
And I don't think you need to spend any motion on the impact fees.
Okay,
It doesn't, not necessary.
okay,
It's per the current code. The current code is enforceable, it's effective, so we don't, there's no any action on that. It's just,
Developer's not appealing that part of it.
right, yeah, I get that, I just didn't know if we had to have a motion to put into motion us taking a look to adjust the impact fees moving forward. I didn't know if that needed to be addressed in the motion or not.
no, I don't think the impact fee issue has to be addressed at all.
Then I make a motion to not charge dedication fees to Ripplebrook East, and to make that recommendation to the board to finalize that decision.
I second that.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you for patience, I just wanted to make sure I had it worded correctly.
It's novel.
I knew where it was going, I just didn't know how to get there.
Send it to the
It
board.
should have been looked at a long time ago. And maybe some.
We're gonna work on it. We're gonna work on that, I think.
Just the issue doesn't, never came up in the
They want
context
to
of
make the
an
recommendation to the
application.
board for the
To
code,
investigate the impact fees.
and the dedication fees to be removed from our village code. Correct?
Well, it's, I'm gonna say yes to that. We're gonna be taking a look at all of those, well, that one we can take action right now.
Right.
Also,
Yes, but I have,
Yeah,
I have this one.
Wait a second.
Putting forward to,
Do you want this back?
Yeah.
Right, that's what I'm
Thanks, Steve.
asking. Okay.
okay. And the next one is regarding the impact fees. It looks like a separate issue, correct?
it's resolved. That's resolved. Current code covers it. We don't have to-
No, indeed, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
that's fine.
Oh, okay. Okay, and then we go to, the erosion part of the extreme exterior, and I believe this is gonna go up to the board.
Well, I guess we could probably talk about these two items, E and F.
Okay, should we bundle them together?
Sure.
Okay.
One over together, because they interrelate. Where do you go? The issues that are involved in both of these situations involve violations of the zoning code. And it's been considered by the board. Mr. Peterson's got counsel now, Don Murn, who's a good lawyer. And he's written a couple of, well, there's been some email exchanges. And Don's first letter, which you might have seen, was very direct. I guess I'll call it very direct. And we responded. And the response was twofold. Number one, the CUP that had applied for last year, and per some it's called Act 67, more rigid standards have been set for the bases to obtain approval for CUP and deny approval to the approval of a CUP. That occurred back in summer, or back in May or June of last year. So we take the position that we followed all of the mandated steps and have bases for the decision to deny. Attorney Murray would disagree with that and suggested that first demanded it be approved, to which we said no. And not only is there a problem with the merits of it as to whether or not they met the standards of the village, met the standards of denial, but there also is a 30-day period to appeal to circuit court. Once that's gone, poof, there's no further action that can be taken relative to that CUP request. It's dead. Well, they would have to come back with another CUP request. I think Attorney Murray's most recent request is, we'll just look at it again, but you can't. You have to, there has to be a new application for a CUP. The old one's gone. There's no legal one that took any of the benefits that would have come from the last one. So, since this has really been a board issue, and the board's considered it at some length, the board members who sit on this commission would know, really there's not much that the plan commission can do at this point. It's in the board's hands. Board's given direction, and that direction is going to be reviewed. There's been a request made through Jeff to have a closed session on this to bring the board up to speed as to those various letters that pass back and forth to determine how they want to proceed. There's no question it's violations. There's no question it's violations. But the question is enforcement action. I know what the board's consensus was recently, and this will make sense to be. So I don't think they have to take any delays on us at this point. It's out of their hands. It's in the board's hands.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the planner's report.
Update as to the status of the town realty.
Here you go. The situation with town realty is one that was ancient. We have 2008 recorded development agreement and a subdivision plat, a residential subdivision called Harvest View. The subdivider, as the economic conditions changed, kept asking for 2-year extensions, and they were given up till this past year. Whether it should have been done or not, doesn't matter, I guess, at this point. But at this point, town says, is on record, suggests that they're not seeking another extension. So now what do you do? And I have never seen before, none of our office attorneys, which probably have accumulated 450 years of lawyer experience, have ever seen it before. Town's attorney has never seen it before. Never seen it before. So she contacted Wisconsin Title. And Wisconsin Title gave us a process that would be utilized. I didn't study it in detail, but there's a process that they would approve, and they would later on issue, however that land's developed, however it was developed, they would issue title policies to residential owners and to industrial building owners. So right now it's in the works, and I intend to work with her to follow that procedure once it's defined, to probably root back here, explain it to you in detail, and certainly in a way that's better understood than it is currently. Wisconsin Title, they're willing to go and look for millions of dollars title insurance, and they've got a solution as to how it's to be done. We're going to do it that way. Town's attorney already said yes to it. I said yes to it. So, bear with us. It's going to take some time to do this, in several months to do it. That's our few of Lester's questions.
Who absorbs the fees?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, they're paying their own fees. We have a development agreement, I didn't look back at it, Tony. I didn't look back at it.
I read through it, I don't remember, but I would almost gather that we would be able to assess those charges back to the town.
To require, town to
Anything from-
reimburse the costs.
Yeah.
Because there might be some engineering expenses, I don't know about planners so much in this situation,
Maybe a
and
couple
legal
of minutes of
expenses.
attorney fees.
Okay, I'll pass that back to them, see what the response is.
Yeah, I'm just curious, I don't think in a situation like this where we did our due diligence, but the subdivider did not, we would have to absorb any costs as a municipality.
Yeah. I'll have to admit that I don't think I was ever contemplated that this would happen in this way, and that no one's ever run into it before, except even the title company, they only did it once, which is really extraordinary to have an issue come up where a title company puts its money on the line to insure properties, and they've only had the situation occur once. But no, I'll take that back to the developer, and I will, I can take a look at the development agreement and see what that wording says that never contemplated this type of scenario. So that's fair.
Thank you.
So that's harvest, unless there's something more. Okay.
The next item is with respect to the status of Hastings Air Energy. I left a message for the broker who was handling that with them, and I've not gotten a response from him.
Is that Dan Scargill?
Yeah.
All right. I'll tell you what, well, I'll say something right now. I know the Boers, our kids with Catholic World together. They're good folks. They do what they say. They have the money to back it up. But I don't consider myself a personal friend of theirs, although I have respect for what they do and the success they've had with their business, which is called Hastings Air Exchange or something like that. We represented them when they bought that parcel up there. But that had nothing to do with the post-purchase uses. So right now, I'm inclined to say that I feel comfortable that I can, without conflict, represent the village as they go forward with this. If I get a sense that an uneasiness with it, I will just have to tell you about that and recuse ourselves, and you get the other council. The other council, though, would be charging back the same as we would, but at a much lower rate than what ours is. But anyway, so just a heads up on that. I know them, they're good folks, and they're very successful.
So did they close on the land? Do they do own it?
Yes,
Or,
they own it. I don't know what name it is in, but they do own the property.
okay.
Yeah.
So if I don't hear back from Dan Scardino, I do have Dave, his first name, David Boer's telephone number on the application they had submitted, so I would try to reach out to him and see if he can enlighten me of where they're at on
I appreciate that. It's one of the larger developments that have expressed interest in moving in, so.
You know, they've got a building on Grange, about a quarter of a mile west of Moreland, on the north side of the road, just opposite that Bi-Seasons or whatever it is there. And they're successful, very successful guys. And their business involves air systems. And I remember seeing one example of it. When a fire truck starts inside of a closed building, there are plastic pipes that have fans on them that suck the air out. And then when it gets just so far out of the fire station, they pop off. So they got an interesting niche, and they do a good job.
And then the other item was the deed restrictions with respect to the Herzog property. Kelly was asked to look into those at last month's planning commission meeting. So
I do
the
have
copies
a copy of them.
Yep. The copies of both of these are enclosed in your packet. I do see that one of them has the recording data on it, and that would be the one from 2022. And one of them does not have the recording data on it. But I know I have a copy of the one from 2021 that is recorded. So the 2021 document is recorded.
And so is the 2022,
Okay.
right? You said you had 2021.
I do have a 2021. This just isn't the recorded
Right.
copy.
Yeah, 2022 shows it was recorded in the upper right corner.
Yep.
Right.
So the 2022 would supersede the 2021, correct?
Yep.
It's not an addendum to, it's a superseded document. Is that correct? Is that
Mm-hmm.
the right thing to say, superseded?
Yep. Yeah, I didn't participate in writing this second one. Looks like Elena wrote that one. I did participate in writing the first one. And the distinction is that she took out in the second whereas, second paragraph of the second whereas, she took out reference to the prohibition on electricity and gas and propane.
That's it.
And that's it. Yeah. So that's the change that was made by, on account of an action by the planning commission to allow those things.
Which seemingly matches up to the current condition of the property.
I did get a call that he has now put cable in his building now.
Cable, like TV cable?
Yeah. That's not on the stipulation. So.
Front row. That's stupid, didn't say.
Has the building inspector gone out in regards to the complaint?
We talked about
Yeah.
that, didn't we talk about that last month where we said it probably wouldn't be best to just send the inspector over there without,
Because whatever he was doing, he stopped doing it.
yeah.
Yeah. There were complaints about the noise,
Mhm.
and then the complainant said, but they haven't been causing any problems since. And he said, if they do again, we will
Yeah.
reach back out
Yes.
to the village. Yeah.
That's why I was wondering.
Do we
So
look
no, I
on
don't-
the installation of cable as a step in
That would be a
the,
new utility service.
I don't know, if you're gonna let the guy have gas and electric, I mean, a lot of those
Is
things
it
are
regard to-
operated
Yeah.
off of
Yeah.
cable type systems, you know, if you wanna operate them remotely, you gotta have a cable system there to connect into it. I don't know how you could,
But that's in regard to telephone and or internet.
yeah.
That's bringing a new utility to the structure.
It's not.
It's not expressed specifically as cable or phone
yeah,
on the deed restriction.
You know, I suppose we could really go down the list, we could say there's, you know, we can't anymore, it's water on the bridge.
well, if he has power, he could have, an antenna on there, that's all he needs. If we wanna do get past the cable thing, I assume that
Yeah.
the cable thing there's,
Well, wasn't the issue, because the gas was already running in that building?
wasn't there electric on the building before the deed restriction?
Electric was there.
Yeah, that was electrified already.
No, we approved him to take gas
To
into
get gas, yeah.
because he wanted to heat it.
Right.
Hadn't considered prohibiting cable. But, I don't know, there's probably a lot of other things you could do, like put an antenna on the roof, or put solar panels in, or on the building, you know. I don't know, I'd have to think pretty hard.
But you
But at
can't
this
put a bathroom
point-
in.
So, on the language on the deed restriction, is that coming from us, from the village?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to, yeah.
Commissioner Bennett is right, the ultimate throttle that you have is that there is no principal residence, unless he intends to turn the building into a principal residence, and that would take a lot of code compliance for.
Well, the intent was that they were gonna have temporary
Yes.
storage with.
And the intent was that it said it was gonna build a house on the property.
Build a house, right?
But, you know, he's got a lot of environmental limitations on that property. You know, everything outside of the building shows up as environmental corridor over there. But what you had said about septic and well
Mhm.
are the real clutch items, you
Yeah.
know, so. That prevent him from becoming so entrenched over there.
So it sounds like it's really kind of settled down, from what I understand.
Yeah, I mean, they're not back this month to complain about it.
And his voice difference as they were last time, I figured they'd be standing right here.
Yeah.
It's our, if they had stopped what they were doing, so.
All the news is good news.
Mr. Bell?
I have nothing.
Nothing?
Everything is good.
You want to tell us how you fell down again?
Pardon me?
You want to tell us how you fell down again?
I was on a rescue call, and this lady had slipped, actually, it was in the same place. And she went in the house, and, but 12 hours later called us, and we went and got her. And I brought the car out, and down I went. And believe me, when you hit the concrete floor, it hurts.
Yeah, wearing your ice cleats, huh?
And, but, you know, just keep on going.
So,
You bounce.
Pardon me?
You bounce.
Bill, being the inspector and everything, I just had a question. It's kind of what I wanted to hear too, and I hope this all falls in, Mike, him being an inspector and giving his report. There's a huge item out here as far as burning, and I know that you filled out some permits, and I don't know if you denied them, but I know you've given permits.
I give them permits, and the ones I did not sign are the ones that were not in compliance.
Right, okay, but I don't know what's out there as far as what you've done, what you haven't. My concern is the exemption of the size. We don't put any kind of size, I mean, they don't meet that 4x4 or whatever it might be, but we don't put any kind of restriction as far as, we can't make it the size of this building or anything? We name a size?
Well, in the past, what we did with that was a special permit. And that permit was inspected by me
Okay,
and checked out, and then if he was gonna burn a big amount or whatever the situation may be at that time,
okay.
I would go there and I would either give it to him or I wouldn't give it to him. And
So
actually, you have the proper, equipment here to extinguish it if necessary.
So you do have kind of a specific size or whatever you say is,
I do believe that the permit tells you that, doesn't it?
I don't know, I've never
Yeah, I
seen.
know, I do believe the permit says the size.
I'm pretty sure it does.
Yeah. The information that was given at the board meeting last time was every permit that's been issued in the past 2 or 3 years has strictly said there's no size limit. I think that was what the concern was coming from, right, Jeff?
Right.
I don't remember. I thought that was written in.
It's written in the code, that 4x4 by.
Yeah, it's written in the code 4x4, but you got, I think that usually the permit states the fact that you have to follow the code.
I think that there's an actual line that said that there's no size restriction. I don't wanna say that for certain, but that was the way that the conversation was leading.
Guess I just needed your advice on that, Bill, because this is coming up.
Yeah.
And you being the inspector, I don't know, maybe you could come to the board and look into it between now and then and advise us a little bit?
You can do that.
I guess that's what I.
What I'll have to do is I'll get all that information that we had from the past and read that all out and I can do whatever we gotta do to correct the situation.
Yeah, and then, you know, we like some recommendations, so I'll quit now, Mike, before you scold me.
What's that?
I'll quit before you scold me, I'm getting on the edge here.
Yeah, no, that's, I think it's okay. So far, so far.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, zoning inspector, we heard anything at all from him?
He told me he has nothing.
Okay. Last but not least,
That's for last. Let's see, update on Cajun, I think that's more in Mike Schulber's court, yeah.
Sorry to monopolize the conversation. but, no, the Cajun situation involves one where we have to do something that's, put together something that's recorded in the Registry of Deeds office that explains where we're at with the CO permit that been issued 10 years ago, whenever it was. So he got an attorney, luckily, finally. One attorney called me and then he apparently wasn't hired. So another attorney called me and sent me a draft agreement, draft document, which I shared with Naomi and hopefully it got through. But you-
Yeah, recently.
And the draft document has, I don't think I have it long, I guess I do, but my handwritten notes on it as to how I will tune it up. Right now, when we get our comments together, I'll get back to the attorney and we'll hammer it out. Bringing back to you a final version, once we carry it as far as we can. If we have an agreement with the attorney for occasions, that's fine, bring it back to you for your review, see whether you agree with the language. If we don't have an agreement, we'll bring it back to you to get your input as to what should be changed. So right now, I can say it's in the works.
Update as to the Douglas Court final approvals, completion and acceptance of improvements and required documents and agreements. I'm still waiting for the updated stormwater maintenance agreement. I reached out to both Mr. Khan and his engineer for that information. I haven't received a reply. But I get better feedback when I call him, so I will call him, see that he got the email. And then I did provide a handout at tonight's meeting about the latest correspondence relating to the landfill property. I don't know, you can go ahead and take a look at it, it's gonna be discussed at the board meeting. But I took direction from the board after the January 5th meeting, did inspection on the 6th, followed up with a notice of continuing violation and stop work order. Basically, the removal of the materials as required to become compliant with the zoning code created a lot of disturbance on the site. It was done at a time when there was no erosion control up, and the removal of the materials, the land was wet, and taking all the materials out, it got all mucked up, and over 3,000 square feet of disturbance, which requires an erosion control permit. The first thing was to put in some erosion control measures, which we met on site, and there's a couple exhibits in the back. Exhibit A, the first exhibit A, then there's one that says agreed to per site visit. So I put together exhibit A showing what I would like to see out there, and then we met on site with the applicant and agreed to the second exhibit A, which says agreed to for the site visit. That was completed by the deadline, noted in the stop work order, which was, they stopped immediately all activities on site. They needed to put in erosion control by 3 p.m. on Friday, January 13th, which they had done and sent pictures of. So I have documentation of the erosion control being installed. They were also required to come in and get a erosion control permit for a site of less than 1 acre. On Friday, January 13th, when we met on site the day prior, they hadn't got their erosion control, but I think the village was not open. Village Hall was not open on the 13th. So Jamin said he would come in by that following Monday and apply for the permit. And as of yesterday, there had been no permit application. The building inspector emailed me. He said that Greg Peterson had said he was going to come in and fill out a permit application that day, but I have not seen it. So I'm not sure if that was completed.
You want to follow up with a reminder then, or?
Yeah. Oh, I sent a reminder the day before that, I think, that he still hadn't done that because he had asked for something.
So that was 2 weeks ago?
Mhm. So no permit, I don't think a permit application has been applied for. I asked Holly, she hasn't seen it either, and it hasn't come across my desk. The other information required was some information related to the materials management plan. I wanted PSI to kind of sign off on what had been done out there, that it was in compliance with the material management plan, and provide that information by January 20th. And then I also required a restoration plan for the site be provided by January 20th. And I have not seen either of those documents, nor have they been questioning, what do we need to provide, or provided any sort of information related to this.
So, 1 week ago.
So this is gonna move up to the board level, and we're going to have a closed session on this. Would you mind coming and,
Yeah, I can put that on my calendar.
okay, that'll be next Thursday.
The second.
Anything else?
Oh, I did just today, get over to Mr. Schober, some information relating to enforcement of the, zoning code violation, just my notes and timelines and stuff. I just provided that to him today, so whatever you need.
Harvest?
No, on the landfill property.
Oh,
I just sent it
Oh,
out
yeah.
today. It was where I messed up your email,
okay. I'll take a look.
so we can move forward, and let me know if you need anything else. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. Any correspondence there? No?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody.
Our next meeting will be the